at these kids among the raspberries. Well, look at you kidlets. Like a fairy tale back here.
You can tell that if I made this 10 feet tall, they'd grow 10 feet tall. If I made it 15 feet tall,
they just grow to however tall the trellis is.
If I made it up to a giant's castle in the clouds, they'd grow up to a giant's castle in the clouds.
You helping Daddy water?
All done.
Hi guys, we are here for our tour of our garden. It's been like over a month and a half since we did this, and man, have the plants ever grown. We went on vacation and we came back and all of a sudden we had all these vegetables.
So, zucchinis. This one's coming along and I'll pick it when it gets a little bit bigger. Cherry tomatoes, which are mostly picked, but there's one that's almost ripe. Grape tomatoes, which all look like they're about to ripen at once.
Yeah, they're starting to change color a little bit.
Yep.
And that is a lot of tomatoes. We're going to have tomatoes coming out of our ears in, what, a week or so?
Well, they're already starting to pick up speed.
Yeah.
And sun golds, which are
our favorites.
Yeah, looking pretty happy there. And some bigger tomatoes, which aren't quite ripe yet, but they're starting to get there. These are the cucumbers I planted from seed, so they're a little behind the ones I bought as little starts, but you can see that they're going to be ripe pretty soon too. More sun golds. You know, this one will be ripe maybe tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah, these sun golds
this one will be ripe tomorrow.
Pretty close.
Yeah, cucumbers.
And we had a deer problem.
Yeah, the deer ate our strawberries, but they're starting to come back.
We'll show you.
This one looks like it was the victim of a Sophie locust.
Yeah, we call Sophie the Sophie locust.
She gets most of our strawberries.
Are you the Sophie locust? We've got the bubbles going for the kids right now. But yeah, you can see that the deer ate all the tops of the strawberry plants there, but they're pretty hardy. They're coming back still. All the leaves from underneath are surviving.
And these are the cucumbers that I started from starts, and I picked like 6 of them this size yesterday, and tomorrow I'll probably pick this one and this one, or day after tomorrow. And you can see that there's lots more little ones coming along, and here's another one that's almost ready. So those are doing pretty nicely. More cherry tomatoes that are taking their sweet time, but we'll have a lot of those at some point. These cucumbers are just overflowing. They don't know what to do with themselves. They're just kind of, I need to try and tuck some more of these in to get them to go up, but you can see there's lots more little cucumbers on their way here and there. This one, I'm pretty sure, is a determinate tomato plant. You can see it's much different than the indeterminates, which just grow and grow and grow.
What's a determinate?
It only gets so big. I didn't realize that when I got it, but I'm pretty sure it's determinate. But you can see that because it only gets so big, it puts more energy into the fruit.
Yeah, so has a lot of tomatoes.
Beefsteak style tomatoes. One of them, which is getting ripe already, and getting a beefsteak tomato in July in the Seattle area is not too bad. If you're not using a greenhouse, that's about as well as you can expect to do. This is lemon cucumbers, and I already picked these for today, but you can see there's some that are on their way. They're good to eat straight. Their peels are soft and tender and not too bitter.
They look like a lemon, but they taste like a cucumber.
Yeah. More cherry tomatoes that are almost ready. More sun gold. If you haven't gathered, we love our sun golds here.
It's our favorite. They are like candy.
So we planted like 5 of them this year. And another medium-sized tomato, which is actually, I picked the first one today. These are our herbs. All of them except the basil are perennials. The mint is kind of suffering, but all the others seem to be pretty happy.
Remind me what we have here.
So we've got sage, tarragon, mint, basil, rosemary, oregano, thyme, and another kind of thyme. This is pepper row here, and you can see that we're getting some bell peppers that are not quite right yet, but
they're getting there.
They're getting there. They're getting there. This is jalapeno peppers. You can see that they're not ready yet, but we'll definitely get some this year. Last year we didn't really get any hot peppers, so that's doing better. I also planted banana peppers in here, and I harvested the slightly bigger ones already, but yeah, those have already been harvested once, and we'll harvest them again in a little bit.
More banana peppers.
More banana peppers. And this one's another jalapeno, bell, and banana combo. This one is hot peppers, serranos, eggplant. We already had our first eggplant.
Yeah,
we
we
made
made
it into
lasagna. Here it is.
And there's 2 more growing down below. And more zucchini. You can see there's one there, and one here, and one back there. And we've already picked some of them.
Our blueberry plant, which it's almost done now. We still got a few blueberries left,
I picked quite a few off of it yesterday.
Yeah.
Green area that's designed to be in the shade more of the time. It's all kind of bolting, which is kind of what you want for broccoli. We had our first broccoli harvest yesterday.
there's still one little piece left there.
Yeah, that one was too small to harvest yesterday, but it's looking closer today. We've got chard, got lettuce, which is bolting but still edible. We may have to replant that soon.
Chard, lettuce.
This is arugula that is just going nuts. You can see that it even has little arugula seed pods. Didn't know they did that, but apparently they do. There's kale back in there, which is pretty happy still. There's kohlrabi, and you can sort of see the kohlrabi is eaten for its root, and that's what a kohlrabi root looks like. Those are just about ready to eat.
Is that new this year?
Yeah. There's more broccoli here. It is a different kind from what I'm used to, and it's not doing what I'm expecting it to do, and it looks like it has a few aphids that I'll have to get.
Little stinkers.
And spinach.
You've gotten some giant spinach leaves off this thing.
Yeah, I got some spinach leaves that were like that big.
It was the most
Now it's
ridiculous
just little
spinach
ones,
leaves
but
I've ever seen. And I see that Sophie got a little piece of lettuce here.
yeah, that's more product of the Sophie locust.
The Sophie locust, she took a few bites.
Yeah.
I'll take a few bites.
And this is just a volunteer. Those are poppies. I didn't try to bleed the little bulbs and see if I could roll it into black tar heroin. Probably the wrong kind anyway. But I did pick some of them off there once they were all dried out. And you can shake them.
Or poppy seeds.
I'm gonna make sure it's okay to eat seeds from wild poppies.
Yeah, I would double check that. And as always, we have enough blackberries to feed an army.
Yeah, pretty much everybody in Western Washington has these if they want them, and often have them if they don't want them.
And they're just starting to ripen this week.
Started now.
Yeah, there's still a bunch of green ones.
So the center one is always the first to ripen. And those ones are ripe now.
Got one. There's a good one.
There's a good one. Didn't get anything from the pear trees, but you don't really expect to at this point. Pear trees don't bear until they're a little older. You can see where I'm trying to train the branches just a little bit. This tree went overboard this year, and so much so that this branch actually is partly broken, and I'll have to remove it at the end of the year.
Oops.
Oops.
But man,
but
that is why. Look at all those plums.
It's going nuts.
It's going absolutely nuts.
Buck wild.
More plums than we know what to do with.
Yeah, I picked a bunch yesterday, and I could probably pick some more today or tomorrow.
That looks like perhaps the doing of our children. We worry about animal pests, but guess who else tries to get it? Our veggie garden.
So this is the deer fence. Keep the deer from down in the native growth
We have our fence back
area.
here.
It's only 6 feet tall fence, which a deer could in theory jump over, but I intentionally let the blackberries grow and sort of train them, and that produces 2 beneficial things. 1, the fence is a lot taller and much more difficult for a deer to jump over, and 2, when blackberries are trained up over something like that, they produce
There they are.
like this, which is actually much more accessible for picking, and they ripen faster that way.
Because they're out in the sun.
Yeah, and these ones being right down by the water table are big and juicy, and will remain so even through the driest part of the year. But you can see all the way down the row there. I need to trim some of these things that are
Those are all blackberries.
getting a little too enthusiastic, but
all the way down.
yeah, that'll be really good
That's
for picking.
a lot of berries.
Yeah. yellow plum tree. It usually gets ripe about 2 weeks after the purple plum tree, and you can see these are not ripe yet, but they're getting there. This one had a really heavy bearing year last year, so it's actually only moderately bearing this year. And the purple one is bearing very heavily this year.
They kind of trade off years, don't they?
This is a very sad cherry tree. It produced a decent crop of cherries this year, but it just isn't growing, and you can tell that the leaves are just not real happy. We suspect that it has root rot because the upper part that you can see doesn't really have any noticeable cause of its distress.
And earlier in the year, we were finding mushrooms down
Yeah, we were seeing
by the
lines
roots.
of mushrooms growing away from this.
Yeah,
And
so
this branch died completely.
we think that this tree is kind of on its last legs.
These two are our younger, healthier cherry trees, which also produced a pretty good crop this year. This is what healthy cherry foliage looks like. But the deer got it. That's why
As you
all
can
those
see,
lower leaves are basically denuded.
stinkers.
Yeah, so you can see I'm also trying to train some of those branches a little bit. This is an apple tree. The apples are not ripe yet, but they're coming along nicely.
They're getting there.
They're coming along nicely. This tree bared so heavily last year that it lost a major branch as well. But
It's recovered.
it seems to have basically recovered and is continuing on. This is an apple tree that was planted a couple years ago by me, and I'm trying to train it. Eventually we may take the top off and get more spreading up above. But you can see it's also doing all right. This apple tree had a leaf disease earlier in the year, and you can see the remains of some of this. I treated it with a copper fungicide, and that doesn't remove the diseased stuff, but it prevents the disease from progressing, and you can see new non-diseased growth. So I think I may have pruned it too hard. You can see it's pretty sparse looking, but it looks like it will recover. So we're just gonna check it for disease and spray it as necessary. The copper fungicide is basically an organic thing that's pretty safe. This peach tree had leaf curl earlier in the year, and I sprayed it, and you can see that the new...
Sprayed it with what?
I think it was the same copper stuff. It was either copper or sulfur. Those are the two relatively
So it's like
organic,
a mineral-based spray?
fungicides for the spray, for the leaves.
So that's organic.
Yeah. It's copper octanate. Yeah, that peach tree is doing all right. Another apple tree that is doing okay and creating some apples.
And our raspberries,
Raspberry patch. And you
which
can
just
see-
exploded the last few weeks.
Yeah, they're sort of tapering off now. And a lot of these ones that are up in this area, you know, the raspberries are
Those
turning
ones
into
are done.
raisins.
Yeah.
There's still a few.
But
that
I
are
mean, we have frozen
right.
now, what, 4 whole gallons of raspberries?
5.5.
5.5 gallons of raspberries. So we'll have those. Those will probably last us through the winter for making smoothies and everything.
Yeah, and I plan to make some jam.
And
But you
jam.
can see that in the more shady areas, there's still a lot of berries that are just ripening now.
Yep, so they're
So,
still straggling along.
But you can see that there's still quite a few more that need to be picked. Yeah.
Sophie loves them.
Yeah, Sophie loves the raspberries.
She'll come and pick raspberries all afternoon if we let her, and then pay for it later. We have the raspberries going all the way, and blackberries, of course, on this side. The raspberries, Bill cut through this path so we can get to all
One.
of these raspberries.
There's a raspberry little one.
You got plums, so we could eat one a plum.
Look at these kids
Oh, come
among
out.
the
I can give you a
raspberries. Well,
plum.
look at you kidlets. It's like a jungle for you, isn't
You
it?
want a plum, Sophie? And you can have one too.
Eat it, Sophie. Eat it.
Yum. Oh, it's juicy.
So,
Juicy.
yeah, this is the Sophie locust. She takes
Okay.
one bite
Takes one bite and drops
and
it.
drops it. And she takes another and gets it all over her and drops it. Do you want more than one bite of this? Little Miss Mess. Look at this. Yeah. Yeah, don't do that.
We're still training the kids.
Daddy, what are you doing?
We should garden train them.
We're working on that.
I don't know if I've ever showed on YouTube the paths for the blackberries.
Oh, well, let's run.
There's the raspberries. We
Come
come
on, you
around
two.
the backside.
Let's go this way.
Let's go through the blackberry paths. Let's show the people on
We're
YouTube.
going a different way.
Yeah.
So, these were just kind of made partly for fun to get back in this section, and partly as a good
Sophie,
place to
let's
pick
go with
blackberries.
blackberry
And you can
path.
see that
The black
without constant maintenance,
path is different.
they will close on themselves very quickly.
Yeah, so Bill is back here trimming this
This is supposed to-
constantly. And the little kids love these paths. It's like a maze for them.
But yeah, you can see there's all sorts of green blackberries in here that will be accessible because of the path.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really need to get in here and deal with this. You can see the deer has been active in here as well.
They can eat all the morning glory they want,
Yeah.
just not our
If you could
vegetables.
just tell them not to eat the garden plants, I'd be fine with them eating the morning glory and the blackberries.
Yeah, you're right.
It's always the center one that gets ripe before the others are even turning
It's
red.
interesting.
Sophie, you want a blackberry? Want a blackberry, Sophie?
Go.
This is like a little tunnel here.
Blackberry tunnel.
Yeah. And just,
It's kind of like
straight overhead.
a fairy tale back here. I mean, we probably only eat like 2% of all the blackberries we have,
If that.
if that. And here we are, back in the main part of the yard. So here is the deer fence that Bill just had to put in. Before it was just that wooden fence.
Got all this in kind of late, but it's doing pretty well now. These are Walla Walla sweet onions, which are really the kind I like the best. And for whatever reason, even though I planted them so late, I thought nothing would happen for sure. Maybe they just like being right up at the front where it's sunnier and the soil is a little drier.
They're doing pretty well.
But they're doing really well. They're doing better than they did last year when I planted them at the back.
You got a lot of them too.
Yeah. Here's more broccoli. And a few of those broccolis have aphids, which I also need to get. This is more kale. And for some reason it seems a little happier in the shade. I just planted these here experimentally. As does the broccoli. The broccoli seems a little happier where it's shadier. We also have a couple more kohlrabis here. And these ones look like they might be ready to pick. They're pretty big. You can see we do have some natural predators here for the aphids.
Oh, ladybugs.
Yeah. Here.
Yeah, they eat the aphids.
We'll direct you to your dinner.
And carrots.
Yeah, so this is our main carrot area. It kind of is where the carrots seem to do the best because they get overshadowed by bigger plants if you plant them in the other beds. And I planted a ton of carrots here last year. These ones, the tops are all nice and big, but I planted them pretty late. It was like the beginning of June, so
They're gonna be little carrots.
they're not big yet. So the peas, I also got in pretty late for peas. This is what they would all be doing if the deer hadn't got them. And we would almost have peas. The deer did chop this side almost completely off, and you can see that doesn't actually kill the pea plant. And this is,
At least they're resilient.
so we will get a decent crop of peas. It just set them back a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Potato plants, they're all doing nicely. These ones I planted are almost as big as the volunteers, which were here from last year. I got a few more carrots kind of wedged in there. They get good afternoon light at least. Got some more zucchini here. More potatoes, squash. You can see there's little squash growing on these guys. I think I may need to add another hose here to water these just a little better. I don't know if they're getting quite enough water as it stands right now. And beans. And the deer chomped the beans as well. And you can't even really tell. I mean, here's where they chomp the beans. And the beans are just like, they just shrug it off. They don't care.
Well, at least they're deer resilient.
Yeah, they're quite, at least at this age, they were big enough that they were quite deer resilient. And you can tell that if I made this 10 feet tall, they grow 10 feet tall. If I made it 15
Yeah,
feet tall,
they
they'd
just
grow
grow
15
to
feet
however
tall.
tall the trellis
If I
is.
made it up to a giant's castle in the clouds, they'd grow up to a giant's castle in the clouds. But they do need a trellis that tall. This is what they do when they get frustrated and run out of trellis. And this is an acorn squash, and this is why I think it needs more water. See how these guys are just coming off?
Oh, yeah.
These are acorn squashes that are failing to develop properly, and they're not going to get any bigger than that.
That's too bad.
So you can see a couple more though that are potentially going to develop if I give them enough water. These are volunteer potatoes that were just kind of growing here that I forgot to harvest or didn't get around to harvesting last year. And even though they only occasionally get watered, they are on a big pile of dirt and they seem to be happy. And this is our fig tree. I keep waiting for these figs here to get ripe. That was the spring crop of figs. I keep testing them to see when they're soft enough to pick. They're still not quite there. And then you can see these guys, these are the fall crop of figs. And if we lived in California or somewhere warm, we would get 2 crops a year. As it is, these will probably never get ripe before winter.
Just because we live in the Pacific Northwest. That's it for our tour.
Yep.
So thank you guys for tagging along, and let us know if you have any gardening questions. Bill is always happy to answer them.
If I know the answer.
If you know the answer, which you often have. Good answer. You've been experimenting with gardening now for what, 15 years? Trial and error, perfecting things.
Yeah.
Alright you guys, thanks for watching, and give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!